You're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The regular meeting of the Grosse-Ile Township will come to order. First, I would like to run through who our participants are tonight. On the system, we have the Planning Commission. We have Jay Frucci, Dan Boggs, Udo O'Connor, Angela Sokolis, and me, John Swikert. And John's iPad, is that John Rathel?
Yes, I'm here now.
Hello, John. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a quorum, and among commissioners, also on the line we have Lori, your grandmother, and Derek Teal from Community Development. So on that note, we'll get started. First, a few points. We're all pretty experienced with Zoom by this point, but I think just a few little reminders to make sure we can keep things moving smoothly through the meeting. We want to avoid talking to others. I will be calling on people and moving through the list of people one by one so that everybody has their chance to speak. If for some reason where you do want to jump in, raise your hand. I can watch it up here and can call on you next. That would be just fine, please. Also, background noise. We have all these blueprints, and if people start rustling the blueprints, it's going to be hard to hear. So, if you do that during the meeting, please go to mute. Any questions on any of that? If not, I'm going to move ahead. On the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I think our hearts are all in the right place, and I don't think that just sitting and saying the pledge is appropriate. So I'm going to move past that. Additions or deletions to the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? If not, I would suggest it be approved by consensus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved by consensus. Never mind. Okay, we have the minutes from November 16th of 2020. Does anybody have any comments on those minutes? Dan Boggs?
No, I do not.
Jay?
None for me.
Uta?
No.
John Rathel?
No.
Angela Sokola?
No.
Okay, on that note, since there are no comments, I'm going to say that those minutes are approved by consensus. Lori, please note that.
Will do.
Okay. Public comment. It's an opportunity for anybody to speak with the commission about any item not on the agenda. Is there anybody on the line who would like to speak to the commission?
Mr. Chair, we have some members of the public on. 3 of them are muted. I don't know if they have any public comment or if they are. If this would be their opportunity, though. So we have Bill Heil, Tracy Hopner. I apologize if I messed your name up. Dan Graham and Craig Pilkington. So if any of those, I believe you can unmute yourself if you do have public comment at this time.
Okay, well, hearing no comments, we will move on. First item of business, which is the Pirates Cove indoor-outdoor storage facility. The applicant, the engineering firm is Vance & O'Brien Incorporated, 8150 Jackson Road in Ann Arbor. Dave Hughes is the engineer. The owner of the Pirates Cove is Brandon Vargo. The location for the application is the Airport Commerce Park. The proposal is that at the present time, the existing storage facility in the Commerce Park is Island Stowaway. That was sold and bought by the new owner, and the new owner is now proceeding to want to expand it to the south, to the Grill Road area. It is a large facility. It has indoor storage, outdoor storage. Some of it is climate controlled. The applicant has worked very diligently with the Airport Commission in order to work through all of their issues. They have also worked well with the Planning Commission and in their prior pre-application conference. So the proposal is well developed at this point. In terms of ordinances that we're reviewing this under, the primary is Article 9, which is the Airport and Light Industrial District. In that district, storage facilities are permitted use. However, given the large scope of size for this new facility, it kind of kicks it over from simple site plan to permitted use to a special land use. So that is the way we are going to review it.
John, I don't know if you intend to be on mute, but you looks like you're on mute.
Something happened. Somebody, whatever. Okay, well, you missed the best part, Jay.
I bet.
I'm sure. Anyway, the pre-application was November 16th. Tonight, we're going to handle 2 phases of this. We're going to work with the special land use, public hearing, and presumably a decision as outlined in Article 22. And then after that, we are going to move straight into site plan review under Article 21. Recognize that the special land use is not, the Planning Commission is not the final decision maker. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation that will go to the Township Board, who does make the final decision. When we get to the site plan, that is the Planning Commission's final decision. So that's how we're going to work this. So tonight, I'm going to break this down into 2 pieces. First, the special land use. We're going to focus on that and try to stay away from the site plan issues. I would expect, given what I've seen at least, that the Planning Commission will want to vote on this tonight. After we have finished that, we're going to regroup and come back as to look specifically at the site plan. As all of you can tell from the write-up that Brian gave us, there are a number of site plan issues, and the Planning Commission may or may not want to vote on this site plan tonight. That will be something that the Commission as a whole will need to consider. So we're going to, I'm going to stop at this point. And again, we're going to start with special land use. So Brian, if you would please pick it up at this point and review those elements for us.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. I'm going to try to get a presentation on the screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, I'm going to walk through the presentation, and as John had suggested, we're going to try to cover majority special land use items first, though there may be a little bit of bleed through into site plan because they are so closely related. And then, Mr. Chair, at the close of my presentation, I'll be happy to take any questions or comments that the commissioners may have, and then certainly the applicant team is available as well. So we'll give them the floor once you're done with me, and then we can enter into public hearing just to give because I know we have a few residents on the call too. So just to make sure the public is aware of that too. So I'm going to run through real quick. Sorry, I got to move some windows around. So we're here tonight for what's been dubbed Pirates Cove. As John mentioned, it is an expansion of existing island stowaway. We are here for consideration of special land use and site plan tonight. If you can see my cursor on the screen, this is the existing development, and the proposal is to expand to the south towards Grow and also to the east towards Midway. So this is Midway here, this is Grow further south. I think everybody's pretty familiar with the site. Site and surrounding properties are zoned A1, which is the Airport and Light Industrial District. The majority of this area is within the Commerce Park, which is under the purview of the Airport and Commerce Park manager. And Mr. Mike Duker is on the line tonight as well. So at some point, we may have some questions of him, or if you have questions of him, make you aware that Mike is here also. And as we already noted, we're here for special land use and site plan consideration of an expansion to the existing self and outdoor storage facility. It does, because of the size and scope of it, it constitutes a major expansion of an existing special land use. So that's why this request is in front of the commission for both. And again, as John kind of alluded to, we're dealing with a few different sections of the zoning ordinance. We have Article 9 for the A1 district. We have Article 18, which covers special land uses, and we have Article 21, which covers site plan review. So a brief overview of the proposal. And again, we do have the applicant on the line, so we'll be sure to let them speak to this as well. But it is a multi-phase project with indoor and outdoor storage. Phase 1 includes approximately 60,000 square foot of floor area over 7 different buildings, as well as outdoor storage. There are also a number of related site improvements, including landscaping along the perimeter of the property, lighting within the property, fencing to enclose and secure the site, a small amount of parking, and then also the site engineering aspects, which include grading and stormwater management in terms of the drainage that will be required for the site. Phase 2 is really just an expansion from phase 1, which is some additional storage buildings and some additional paving for outdoor storage areas. Again, this is a bit redundant, but John does too good of a job introing projects, and my presentation ends up repeating a lot of what he says. But last November, the commission did conduct the pre-application conference, which for special land use is a requirement under the zoning ordinance. Tonight, we are here for the Planning Commission public hearing and presumably a recommendation to the Township Board, but that is up to you all, not me. And that's tonight's meeting, March the 29th. The Township Board does have final review and approval authority over special land uses. So once Planning Commission has put forth a recommendation, the special land use request will move forward to the Township Board at the next available meeting. And then we also have a site plan, and that is under the purview of the Planning Commission. So the commission may act on the site of the building floor area as a special land use. So if it's really the outdoor storage that's kicked this into special land use territory, and because they are in excess of that 25%, that's why we're having this discussion tonight. There are also specific use requirements attached to self and outdoor storage. Section 9.3, paragraph C5 identifies the 6 standards that are on the left side of your screen. Outdoor storage areas must be fenced. They have to comply with setback requirements for the district, and they may not be located in a front yard. The outdoor storage areas must be shown on a site plan. Any loosely packaged materials have to be properly covered or contained, and the height of items stored cannot exceed the height of buildings and/or landscape screening. There is a small caveat to that, and that is the farther you get away from a property line, the taller items can be. So for every 1 foot you're set back farther, the items can be, whatever is being stored can increase slightly in height. Item 5 under this standard is that the fire marshal has to review the outdoor storage area to ensure that it is accessible for emergency access. And then the last one is tied to landscaping for off-site screening. Essentially, there are green belts, landscape green belts that are required along the perimeter of the property. Getting into the special land use standards. So these are the general criteria of section 22.3. This is essentially these 5 standards are intended for the commission to be able to fully evaluate the nature of the use and determine its compatibility with the master plan, its compatibility with adjacent uses, its potential impact on traffic and the street system, its impact on the overall environment, whether or not it is compliant with the intent of the zoning district, and whether or not there are sufficient capacity of public services and infrastructure to support the proposed project. So I'm going to break this down into a couple different sections, again, trying to stay somewhat out of site plan realm, and this language does follow my review letter. So for the commissioners and petitioner that have a copy of my review letter, it's in the same order that my letter dated March the 22nd is. So as it relates to potential impacts on adjacent properties, I have asked the petitioner to give the commission a clearer indication of what's happening along the west side. There is existing mature vegetation in that area. There are some large trees. There is also a residence just beyond those trees. And that portion of the property is where their stormwater detention pond is going. So what I'm hoping for tonight is that we can get some clarification from the petitioner in terms of what is going to be cleared out, what is going to remain, and again, allow you to better make a determination as to whether or not it will be compatible with adjacent uses. The next point is that under the ordinance, it's really intended to have new development utilize the existing roadway infrastructure within Commerce Park, except that it does give you the authority to allow a new curb cut on Grow. That being said, the new curb cut would still be subject to Wayne County review and approval. They'll have to obtain a permit from the county for the new driveway. So if the commission is amenable to allowing it, it would still have to get through Wayne County as well. But that is allowed via Planning Commission discretion under the ordinance. Another point is that there are a number of existing roadways in Commerce Park that will be affected by this development. You can see on the site plan, and maybe I'll just backtrack a little here to show you. So there are portions of these existing roadways, not Midway, but a few of the other roadways, Saratoga, Perimeter, that will be essentially absorbed by the development site. So portions of these roadways are going to go away as part of this project if it were to be approved. So I just wanted to make sure that A, that was clear, and B, that the township is prepared for and or covered as it relates to that. Mr. Duker and myself and Derek also, we did have some communication previously, and it wasn't abundantly clear to me exactly how the existing road infrastructure is allowed, whether they're private roads, whether they're via easements, whether they just exist over private property and they're more like driveways than roadways. Again, it's a little unclear. So I put this out there simply to make sure everybody understood that they were doing that, number one, and number two, that if there are easements that cover those roadways, that the township will need to make some modifications to the easement language related to those particular roadways. Consultants, which in this case would be the township engineer or any other township departments, in this case generally would be confined to police, fire, and public services. If we've received any comment from those departments at this point, we would want to make sure that the petitioner addresses any concerns that have been raised. And my closing point on special land use is that, and this is pretty typical, the township does not require final engineering plans at the time of special land use and site plan. So if you were to consider a favorable recommendation, I would suggest that you include a condition of final engineering review and approval. Last point to cover under this section of tonight's discussion are tied to the use requirements. And this again is sort of where we kind of blend special land use and site plan together. But the two of the standards that we just need to ensure are met are tied to, one, the loosely packaged materials. I don't believe that is the intent for this particular use. However, I wanted to make sure that we got either A, confirmation from the petitioner that there will not be loosely packaged materials, or B, that they are properly covered and contained if they do. This type of a standard is generally tied to like a garden center or a nursery or something with outdoor storage where they might have mulch, they might have pallets with bags of materials and landscape materials on them, and want to make sure that anything that's loose doesn't get caught by the wind and send debris all over the site or even off site. So that'll be one back to the petitioner. And then the other one is that because of the nature of the outdoor storage area, the fire marshal will need to review and sign off on the plan for the outdoor storage area to ensure there is proper emergency access available. If you were going to take action tonight, favorable action that is, I would encourage you to include fire marshal review and approval as a condition.
The fire marshal does have the plans. He picked them up. Yeah, he picked them up on, I believe, Friday. So he does have the plans and he is reviewing them. I told him to give them to the police department after.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So again, commissioners, that would be my suggestion would be that again, if you were going to put forth a favorable recommendation tonight, that that should also be incorporated as a condition. Mr. Schweikert, that's all I have to present at this time. I'm happy to take any questions you may have, or we can invite the petitioner to comment and or respond to some of the questions posed.
Okay, Brian, thank you for the thorough presentation. I'll run down the list and see if anybody has any questions. Dan Boggs. Dan? Jay?
No questions for me. That's good summary. And by the way, Brian, I'll speak only for myself and not the other commissioners, but the fact that we hear John's summary and then yours helps to drive it home.
We need to collaborate better before we start these meetings. I need to let him.
I don't know. Duplication has its benefits.
He does a far better job than I do. Mr. Ratho, do you have any comments, sir?
No questions or comments.
Okay, Uta.
No questions or comments. Thank you.
Angela.
None here either. Thank you.
Okay. And on that note, we will go to the applicant. Brian, I didn't catch who was speaking for the applicant tonight. Is it Mr. Hughes or Mr.
Mr. Hughes and Mr. Vargo are both on the call. There's another gentleman. So if we want to just punt over to them, we'll let them, if you guys wouldn't mind, introduce yourselves to the commission, remind them of your role in the project, and then go ahead with anything you want to add describing the project, and or if you can address some of the questions that I posed, that would be great at this time.
Okay, I am Greg Heim, the engineer on the project.
He's the builder, and he's going to probably be doing most of the speaking in the beginning about any of the questions that you arose.
Good evening. I'm Dave Hughes. We're here to present our project and answer any of your questions. So, shall I begin?
Yes, please.
So, first of all, that we've done everything that we can to make this a special project for not only Grosse Ile Township, but our customer. But I would like to say that I feel that we passed with flying colors on all the requirements for special land use. The concerns regarding the adverse effect on the neighbors to the west. We are not disturbing any of that vegetation along the west property line. Not only are we not disturbing it, but we're enhancing that area with a stormwater detention basin, all kinds of native plantings that will eventually, buffer that area, and it will become a much larger buffer zone to the residential district to the west. And regarding the item B, we have received this is in regards to the curb cut on Grow Road. We have received verbal approval from Wayne County, they're looking for a couple of minor corrections to the plans, but in general, they are approving of our new curb cut and location and dimensions. Regarding item C, the easements that are currently, but we were unable to find any street easements of any kind throughout this property. So we're kind of at a loss on how to resolve it, but we don't believe there's any road easements here.
Yeah. Mr. Hughes, if I could just chime in real quick, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Please.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everyone's clear. I put that in probably more for the township's part really than yours. So I don't know that there's anything that we would ask of you all to do, but I do want to make sure that through Airport Commerce Park, through Mike in terms of his management of that department, as well as potentially the township informational and potentially an internal item.
Okay, I do feel that we're doing everybody a big favor by getting rid of all these roads. They're in very poor condition, and I'm sure no one wants to maintain them in the condition they're in. So this is, from that standpoint, a very good thing for the project.
And on that, I'd just like to piggyback and say me and Mike Duker have spoken report or the commission on that. So just wanted to add that in there as well. And obviously he can talk on it at any point in time if you guys have questions of him. But
And the second section on the use requirements, you're correct in vehicles and recreational vehicles, boats and such. So that we can confirm, and we'll be working with the fire marshal to make sure he's got plenty of access to the site as well.
yeah, if we normally put a box up front on the gate, that he'll be.
Township for the benefit of this airport or ourselves, more revenue is something different than this because the rents are so low. I'm done. Thank you.
Mr. Heil, would you give us your address, please?
I live on East River Road.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, the last member of the public is Tracy, and I'm going to mess the name up again. Hefner. I'm going to change my interpretation of it. Tracy, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free.
No, I'm good, but you actually said it correctly. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Chair, I think that covers anyone. Mr. Duker is on the line as well. But
use for a little while after the Navy base turned over, but for all intents and purposes, mostly vacant property since the airport was turned over to the township since 1970. Again, there were 5 or 10 years there was some buildings on it that were sparsely used. We've had 30, 40 years to attract different developments, and the commissioner and I spent quite a bit of time reviewing this opportunity and really felt it's what's best for that land. This was a great opportunity. I'm not sure if John, I'm sorry, I chimed in a few minutes late, but if he touched on that, it's a great opportunity also for us to clean up some of our environmental concerns in the Commerce Park. They're old steam tunnels that have been, so this is an all around great opportunity. We get to clean up some environmental concerns. It's a long-term, sustainable, great partnership development in the Commerce Park. I am not at liberty to share numbers because that's brand and partnership moving forward, and I look forward to the development. So I want to thank my commission for the hard work, and also this commission for the time, and the staff, Derek and Lori, for working with Brandon and kind of keeping close tabs on this project. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Mike. If there are no other comments from the public at this point, then I'm going to entertain a motion, please, from someone to close the public hearing. Is there a motion? Uda?
Mr. Chair, I see Bill Heil waving his hand.
Okay. Let's go back to Mr. Heil.
Uda, thank you. You can hear me, right? I'm grateful
Yes.
for that. I've listened to what Mike had to say. And I want to make it very clear I respect him. But when he talks about what has been accomplished over these number of years, I hear no comment about the efforts that have been made to accomplish anything. My point is, I'm of the opinion personally that this particular site, I'm talking about the Airport Commerce Park, long term, for the benefit of this community, has the opportunity to take advantage of more opportunity in rent per square foot for this land than this project projects for us over the next, I don't remember, but it's a lot in the past. But it's a sense of proportion or perspective. I'm not here to condemn anyone, but I think that more is potentially possible than this. And I think that we should review that before this is approved. Thank you. Thank you very much, Uda, for giving me this chance to speak.
Thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Are there any hands being waved? I can't see any.
I think we're good, Mr. Chair. Nope.
Okay. Then at that point, I would ask, please, for a motion to close the public hearing. Jay, will you make a motion, please?
Yes, I move that we close the public hearing portion of the meeting.
Mr. Ratho, will you second?
Support.
Thank you. Call a question. Dan Boggs?
Aye.
Rucci?
Aye.
Ratho?
Aye.
O'Connor?
Aye.
Sakala?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carried. Public hearing is closed. We will now come back to the commission, and we will run through for comments, questions, and concerns that will lead to potentially a motion. Jay, I'd like to start with you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could just ask, this is specifically with respect to the special land use portion or the
Yes,
whole
sir.
project?
Only the special land use.
Okay. No, I nothing except to thank everybody who's done the hard work here. I certainly appreciate Mr. Heil's comments. However, I think those are really more the consideration of the airport commission and the township ultimately, as opposed to the planning commission, unless I'm missing a portion of our charge. And so leaving those decisions to the appropriate committees, I don't see any remaining concerns that I have with this project.
Thank you, Jay. Mr. Ratho, please, your comments.
Pretty easy to justify, and I think the project overall is going to be a good and sustainable project for not only the township in general, but the airport specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Angela.
Along with John and so many other people, this is really a rare opportunity to do something like this at the airport. Very rarely has even this kind of an opportunity come to the Airport Commerce Park. So I was also hesitant at first because it takes up so much space, but at the same time, the best use we've had for that space has been overflow parking for the Island Fest, and on top of everything else, that was free overflow parking for Island Fest. So the Commerce Park was not really able to garner any revenues from that site. The other thing that the board has heard over the years is that there really is a lack of storage space available to residents on the island, especially as we began more strictly enforcing boats and driveways and excess cars in driveways and campers in driveways and things like that. So I think this on some level fulfills a need, which I think our businessmen clearly know, or they wouldn't be investing so much time and money into this project. So I just wanted to kind of say that to Bill, to alleviate your fears that this is being thoroughly looked at. but that your concerns will also, I'll take those to my colleagues on the township board. But I myself have no reservations about the special land use.
Thank you, Uta. Okay, at this point, I believe that we are ready for a motion. I would ask, please, that whoever makes the motion include the recommendations that Brian made for final engineering review and approval and fire marshal review and approval as to contingencies. Is there anyone who would like to step forward?
Land use or recommendation to the township board on the special land use.
There's no further discussion. I will call the question. I will run down the list, please. Angela?
Aye.
Uta?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
Dan?
Aye.
And I, the chair votes aye. So the motion carries. The special land use recommendation will be made to the township board. Brian, can this be put in some form of findings of fact or something that Uta can hand to the other board members?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I'll work with Uta to get a summary.
Brian, if you would, again, work with Uta on that so she has exactly what she needs.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that completes the discussion of the special land use. We will now turn our attention to the second element of this, which is the site plan. Brian, you have a presentation for us, I believe, regarding special site plan issues. Would you present it, please?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I only have just a few more comments to get through, and again, similar to previous, this slide follows along with my my review letter. So the first is tied to the dimensional requirements of the A1 district. There's a 50% maximum building coverage standard. While I don't believe there are any issues with this, there's a large land area, and the building coverage should be less than the 50% max. I do ask that the applicant provide us with those calculations so that we can verify compliance with that standard. Getting into the buildings themselves, there is a portion, so the ordinance for the buildings facing Grow and Midway, those are to be constructed of masonry, essentially. It allows brick or certain forms of block for the portions of buildings facing roadways in the Commerce Park. And building D specifically is a metal building, and I believe it was the east side of that building does face Midway. So that particular standard is not met, so that will require some adjustment to the site. And for the most part, the standards are all met, save for Midway, which is deficient in tree plantings. It's a pretty lengthy stretch of Midway, so that's not to say that there aren't really a large number or quantity of plantings, but they are short by 7 in terms of ordinance requirements. So commission does have some discretion to allow changes or modifications to landscape plans. Though before you're going to consider that, I guess I'd like to hear from the petitioner, A, if they can install the 7 additional trees that are required, and B, if they cannot, then I would like the commission to have some rationale if you're going to consider modifying that requirement. Similar line of thinking, the perimeter street, which is the westernmost street in the Commerce Park, again, the plans they have more trees than would be required. However, the standard is specific to deciduous trees, and the overage that they have on trees on that side is due to extra evergreen trees. So the deciduous trees are slightly deficient, but the number of evergreen trees more than makes up for that deficiency. So again, the commission does have the discretion to allow modification or waivers. In this particular case, because there are actually more trees than required, and because it's along the west side, which faces the existing residence I referenced earlier tonight, I think substitution of some evergreen trees is probably appropriate. But that will be the commission's to determine. I guess it's not mine, but that's my opinion. And then the closing point is really just something for the applicant to be aware of. There is a wall sign depicted in the plans. I did not see any details on a ground sign, which they would potentially also be allowed. However, I want to make sure they understand that if site plan approval is granted or when site plan approval is granted, that does not give them the approval to go ahead and install signage. So ultimately, if and or when the plan is approved, the applicant will need to obtain a sign permit from the Community Development Department prior to installation of any signage. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Brian. We'll move now to the applicant, Mr. Hughes. Would you please discuss the site?
One at a time here, although I have to defer to my engineer, Greg, here as far as item A, the building coverage. I'm sure we're well under the 50%. Greg?
Yeah, it would be hard pressed to get to 50% because of the amount of drive aisles needed to access each of the buildings. On average, there's 40% building to 60% drive aisles required on this type of site. So we are under that for sure on phase one, and I can add that to the plan as well.
We will add that to the plan on our final submittal here to indicate less than that 50% coverage. We have a revised elevation of building D that we want to share with the commission. And actually we've done some upgrades to building F also, but building D in particular, Greg, can you get that? Can you share the whole file?
Can you share, if you click share screen, can you pull it up?
Yes. All right, let's see, what are we doing first? Pictures. Just a minute, let me get. What happened? It froze on me. Oh, there it is. Let me get to that side. We have a new rendering. This also kind of indicates the materials used on site. This is building F.
Yeah.
Building F and G.
So we need the building before.
And there's F or G, I don't remember.
Right.
Here's the one that was all siding, building D in question. Here's a rendering with masonry on the lower half to meet the 50% requirement.
So yes, that elevation has been changed to meet the requirements. And again, it's similar materials to the other buildings. It's a split face colored masonry unit. There is metal siding on the gable portion above. And those are doors and actually roll-up doors is what's shown on the elevation.
This elevation doesn't show additional plantings, shrubs that will cover most of this fence as well. For clarity of the building, we left those out.
So
are these colors representative?
They're poor representative, but I do have some photographs.
Yeah, let me find
of a project that we're just finishing up in Monroe Township, and it's similar color themes. And Greg is trying to grab it right now, but we have these photos to present as our materials, samples of materials. Can you zoom in at all, Greg?
Nope.
Scroll on the mouse.
So this is currently under construction. We don't have any landscaping in yet, but this is similar to what we're proposing, only the color themes are more in a cedar red rather than the blue that you see in these drawings. But that's similar in design to the front office area. There'll be a lighthouse to the one side, but that's actually a good example of, I wish they were landscape, but it is looking good.
So the fascia is the color that we see?
Yes, it's not really a true, I mean, it's they're a beige, Brandon, the ephes or drive it material is a two-tone, in the office, tough to present them here in a Zoom meeting, but I do have all my building samples and materials are here with me, and I don't know.
Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, we're gonna try.
Worst that happens, it won't work.
Yeah. My camera won't scroll down that far. It's stuck on the wall. We can lift up the camera and put it on the table.
Huh.
Nope, too high. There we go. That's the best we can do for today. But you can see it kind of matches the color of the picture. Unless you can't see my video, that might be a problem.
So here's the masonry, the split face masonry.
You can't see it.
We'll start looking at the construction site. Ah, there we go.
Here you go.
What?
Now they have the video.
So you can see.
Okay, so this is a sample of the split face masonry. These are the two samples. It's hard to see the color, but they're very earth tone, nothing fancy, nothing bright. Brick samples. This is a roll-up door sample, only the wrong color. And this is the aluminum framing. All the windows are standard storefront aluminum framing. And then I do have samples. This is the roofing component. It's a dark bronze metal roof, standing seam roof. And I have a wall panel. This is the wall panel above the masonry. And again, earth tones, no bright colors. Brightest color will be the cedar red doors. And I don't have a sample of that.
Okay, and where is the blue? Where does the blue go?
The blue is nowhere. That blue is being replaced with cedar red. It's a clay red. The blue was just a sample of the panel itself. So the color theme is, cedar red instead of the blue.
Yeah, so it's
now. Thank you.
the renderings.
Okay, can you continue then on down through the next item, which is the sidewalk question? What's for the sidewalk?
In me talking with Mike Duker for a decent period of time, my general thought process, and this is actually with the airport commission a little bit, is we were hoping that we could put the sidewalk on the other side, so the west side, by where we're going to have the pond going, and it would be a natural walkway next to that, and we can actually have that sidewalk go the whole length of the property and come around. Whereas if we were to put it on Midway, there's no actual tie-in. It's a sidewalk to nowhere and actually won't be the full length of our property. because we wouldn't have to continue that sidewalk down, I'm sorry, I don't know what the other middle road is, but we wouldn't have to continue that sidewalk over west and then back up north to kind of go with our property line.
That's the sidewalk that you show on the drawings, correct? You call it a bike path?
Yeah, correct. That is that sidewalk, the same one we were speaking of.
So what you're proposing is to move that sidewalk from the street of Midway, move it to the west side of the site to run from Grow down basically past your property to the almost a hill.
Field. Yeah, almost the hill, fieldish area, correct. Because the other sidewalk, we wouldn't have to take anywhere near that far. It would just be kind of in the middle of nowhere would stopping, and you would have an access point to the road. It feels like that road over there is the road on the west side of the property that we're going to be getting rid of is actually more of a natural walkway that we get people to walk up and down now. When we're at the storage facility, that's where we see all of the people anyways, and they would still be able to walk their dog on the grass there further west of that and be able to have a natural area to go run and play. Whereas, where we're putting buildings is currently where people are walking their dogs now.
Brian, question for you. The substitute approach, one side of the street, Midway, versus the other side, west, is there any latitude for that in planning commission decision making?
In my opinion, I think the ordinance is pretty explicit, and it is to be along Midway. So I don't see. I applaud the effort, and I certainly appreciate the workaround that's been proposed. But as far as what the ordinance says, there is supposed to be that the green belt along Midway is supposed to include a 5-foot sidewalk, and it is again specific to Midway. It does not reference an ability to install a different sidewalk in lieu of or
move it. Okay, Mr. Hughes, the only option for the planning commission at this point would be for you to either place a sidewalk along Midway or seek a variance from the zoning board of appeals.
So, Mr. May I make one comment, if I can, from the Airport Commerce Park's perspective, to give a little bit of history there?
Please.
I know in our last conversation, or we kind of had a pre-meeting, the conversation, and Mr. Rathel was involved in that one, and he kind of educated me because he was around when the requirement for the sidewalk was developed. Going back to previous goals of Midway there was to think of it as a store frontage. So we would have more retail frontage buildings, glass storefronts. Obviously, that idea has evolved and changed over time, especially with this project. So I know from our last conversation, we had kind of felt that not having that sidewalk and seeing a further investment into frontages and landscaping would be a better bet. And I know the commission discussed that and had felt and agreed. The other note I think I'll make on this is the commission and I are looking to partner with Pirates Cove a little bit on this development and start implementing our own landscaping master plan. So you may see some things on the other side of the street as well as the anchor. But to Brandon's point, the frontage idea was at the time, would make sense for a sidewalk. This new development really kind of sees it as obsolete because, as he stated, it would pretty much end in a dead end in a grass field to nowhere. And the Airport and Commerce Park doesn't have the resources or the interest at this time to develop a full sidewalk system within the Commerce Park. So I think that's a little bit of background and kind of where that requirement came from. So I'll leave it there.
Well, it certainly makes sense what you said about why you would have originally wanted it, and at this point it doesn't fit. I agree. I think the opposite side makes perfect sense, and I don't know how we get around the hard language that's in the ordinance. Planning Commission follows the ordinances. That's the problem. Right? Ota, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, just to be clear, the recommended switch is to Perimeter Drive or Perimeter Street along that edge?
Yeah, yep, it would be perimeter.
Now, short of going to the ZBA for a variance, is there an opportunity for the ordinance to be amended, given that the Airport Commerce Park has had a change in vision for that location? What might some of our other options be?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I mean, the township, the township always has the authority to amend its ordinances. So that would typically, usually I would like to see, this is just me as the outside consultant, but I'd like to see, I guess, some communication between the different bodies expressing the desire to change the ordinance. So Mike, perhaps if you could work with your commission and, draft a memo, or even if they took an action, we could then provide that through UTA to the board and essentially get authorization to entertain an amendment to that particular requirement. There may even be others. I guess my preference would be, if you're going to change the ordinance, then I would say take a look at the rest of it as well, as opposed to just basically asking the commission and the board to delete one sentence within the ordinance. It just to me makes more sense to, I guess, take a broader perspective if there are other items that have also shifted in terms of Commerce Park's vision that would be the opportunity to do so.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would assume that the revision of the regulations would be much more time consuming than pursuing this issue via the ZBA, especially as Brian had mentioned, in order to do it correctly, I think you'd probably want to take a look at the whole package rather than just the one aspect, which once again would take far more time. So Mike, I think maybe the ZBA might be the best option here, just from a timing standpoint. That would just be my suggestion.
Thank you, Derek. Just a thought, Brian. I want to build on what you've said. Obviously, UTA, as an elected official on the board, they have the power to basically decide whatever they want to decide. If we have a good faith effort on the part of the airport commission that says we don't want this, you have a recommendation from the planning commission that we look at the Commerce Park ordinances and recognize that you don't want to artificially or don't want to hold up the project unnecessarily. That the board has that information as well, so we commit doing what Brian you suggested, albeit it may take 6 months to do, but in the meantime, recognizing that that's the direction we're going to go, the board could then say, look, we're okay with this, and handle that as part of the special land use submittal.
Also, having gone through the sidewalk wars in the past, I know that the board would want not to create another sidewalk to nowhere when there is an alternative that actually makes a lot of sense and that takes walkers straight to the recreational green areas as opposed to having them meander through the light industrial park. So I like the direction that you're looking to.
Well, I think it recognizes the fact that the board has ultimate authority for this community, and getting on a ZBA agenda could take a couple of months.
Yeah, and you know what, the bottom line is, the board has the authority, but also the board wants to make the people happy, wants to provide them the recreational opportunity and access that they need and want, and at the same time help a project take place that we know we need to keep the airport viable.
Okay, well, let's I want to run through everybody and get everybody's opinion on this. Jay, would you share your thoughts, please, on what you would like to see?
Yeah, I think you've come up with a very sound solution there. I shared the same concerns that Derek raised about interested to make sure Brian thinks that we've come up with a workable solution there. But assuming that that's not some sort of violation of some sort of purview that the board has, which I wouldn't think. I think it's a great solution.
Mr. Rathel.
I agree with both you and Jay.
Uta, more thoughts?
No, go on.
Okay. Angela?
No, I'm in agreement as well. I think that to go through all this effort and put this project together, I would love personally to see usable sidewalk where it makes sense. And so, you know, being a little bit unfamiliar with how the process would work, it sounds like we have a good viable solution, and keeping to the time of the project would be helpful as well.
Thank you. Dan?
I just wanted to point out that I think having a sidewalk along Midway would be an important pedestrian connection between the township hall, and the park and soccer fields that are down there. I believe, in my opinion, walking down over by the far side of the property would be way out of the way, and other than by someone going that direction intentionally, like joggers, it would not be used. We would be back to everybody who's going between Township Hall and the parks, public parks, would be walking in the roadway, which is obviously not as safe. So I just wanted to make sure that it's known on the board here, but that is an important pedestrian connection there.
Okay, thank you. That is a point as well. Yeah, in general, you know, I'm a real stickler for following the ordinance standards, but I think that this is an outlier. It's an ordinance standard which is out of date, and as such, I think it's fair to go through this process. So let's go back to the applicant at this point, and let's continue down the list. Mr. Hughes?
Along Midway, other than it reduces the planting area that we have. And if so requested, we will certainly agree to put a sidewalk in. What we don't want is the project to be delayed. Yes.
So this is in addition to, not instead of.
Yes.
We feel the path on the south side is more of a service for the residents of the community versus visitors to the township hall and the park. I'm not sure how many people walk between the township hall and the park, but I do know that the east side of the park has a similar pathway that isn't adjacent to the road, kind of cuts through the woods. So to that park, it's kind of a consistency as well with that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Uta.
The builder's concerned too about reducing planting space. Midway is a boulevard and has a green, a green strip down the middle.
Yes.
I know some trees have been planted there because, well, my mom helped plant those trees there. And there's probably opportunity for planting in that location if putting a sidewalk impacts the plantings. But I think if this gets us around to getting the project done, and you're amenable to continue putting the sidewalk on perimeter as well, I don't see why not.
When I say we, I'm talking about the Commerce Park. Going even back to 1998, 1999, when we were talking about what Midway would we get Township Hall, where we could get the traffic, knowing that we were going to get recreation down to the north end of the Commerce Park as well, because we had forfeited that land over to them. So these sidewalks are nothing new. And that was that there was a vision to have Main Street USA on the boulevard and only on the boulevard. It wasn't going to go down any farther. And a sidewalk would obviously have to be put on that street to be able to bring pedestrians from one specific store to the next. And that would be kind of the entrance area to finance the operations of the airport. That concept of Main Street USA, even though I would love to have it, is not possible. It's not worked on and worked with and helped to succeed. Putting Main Street USA down at the Commerce Park kind of became outdated and something that we didn't feel necessary anymore, long before Pirates Cove project showed up. So the ordinance was put in because that's how we wanted it to look at the Commerce Park. And now here we are in 2021. We have a development that does not need that sidewalk. And we have a ordinance that requires a sidewalk for a totally different use than what's going to go there. If we put a sidewalk down there, it's going to start at Grow Road and it's going to go down to the end of that first street there and it's going to stop. And that's it. And people are going to be walking in the streets of the Commerce Park from there. So logistically, it doesn't make any sense for traffic flow unless the township wanted to come up with a total bike path pedestrian plan going through the Commerce Park and winding their way through the Commerce Park, which one day we may have. But this sidewalk doesn't do anything. I was surprised that Brandon wanted to put a whole sidewalk down the entire length of the project, which includes the old Perry, the old construction, not his new construction, that would go all the way back to the recreation fields and the sled hill. And whether it's in the middle of Grow Road, where the Township Hall driveway comes out, or if it's to the west of that, or if it's to the northeast of that, going into the pond, there's a lot of different avenues that people take into the Commerce Park, and especially when they're pedestrians. And I can tell you that the least I would say is Midway, because people are approaching the airport and they jump in. So whatever we have to do to get rid of this sidewalk ordinance for that one small piece of Midway, let them take that and landscape it more to the desires of what we want. We're working with Pirates Cove to do some landscaping issues there in the Midway entrance right there. So I think there needs to be a trust in this process that the sidewalk, yes, it's there. It doesn't fit this project and it's a waste of money. It's going to end up costing us visually because they won't be able to put in all the landscaping that we would require for that.
Put the sidewalk in based on what the applicant has volunteered to do, or we go to the...
It falls far short of making over to the green space or over to the park there. It basically stops at where the property, the proposed property that's being developed, that's where it stops at. So
Dan, too, if we look at the other side of Midway, there's also no sidewalk there. What conversation will we have with a potential project on that side if they also don't want a sidewalk? Then now we have a street that has, it's a boulevard, but no pedestrian access on either side. I'm also worried that asking the board to help revise an ordinance could become complicated and eat up a lot of time. And if the project builder is willing to go ahead with the sidewalk on the spot where right now the ordinance wants it, I don't have a problem with them doing that. I think ultimately we want a sidewalk on both sides of the street. We had this discussion a long time ago on Macomb Street when Wayne County revamped our Macomb Street. The original project neglected sidewalk on the north side of the street. And we had prolonged debates on whether or not we should have a sidewalk on both sides of Macomb Street. In the end, I'm thrilled that we have sidewalks on both sides of the street, because whenever you see activities taking place on Macomb Street, you have pedestrian traffic on both sides. Even though the views of I think providing for pedestrian access down, especially a main thoroughfare that's a boulevard that is made to look, you know, like an elevated streetscape. I think we probably should proceed with the sidewalk as planned and then consider additional places. Maybe the Airport Commission and the township can find funding to do additional sidewalks more quickly.
Thank you, Uda. Jay, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I say we make the recommendation. That's going to be my vote. That we make the recommendation that that there not be a sidewalk there and it gets replaced with the one on the west side. But my view is that the township can make that call. If they don't view it that way, then they can reject it. And the applicant has said.
Now, Dan?
Nay.
Nay. Mr. Frucci?
Aye.
Yes. Mr. Rathel?
Aye.
Yes. Uta?
Yes.
Yes?
Do this timely.
Well, we'll do the best we can, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Uda, you can get it done. I trust you.
Okay, that was a difficult one, but let's get back now to item E from Mr. Hughes. You were up to the green belt.
So item E, there's 20 trees according to the calculation required in the green belt there. I counted the 4 pine trees or spruce trees or whatever they are that are remaining, as well as additional 3 deciduous trees. I'm not entirely sure what they are at the moment. I think they're dogwood trees
that were existing.
That are existing to meet that 20.
So I would like to pick up on that and indicate that whatever trees we are found to be deficient, we shall add them to the plan to meet the ordinance. So we're not opposed to adding more plantings in any way, shape, or form. The question is will you allow us to substitute evergreens for deciduous per item F? But again, we're not opposed to plantings in any way.
As well as if we do need to put the extra 7 in there because the current ones aren't sufficient enough out the area to where we wouldn't be able to see the building that we're making a nice new elevation for that can be presentable on Midway.
Brian, question for you. Does the Planning Commission need to make this decision tonight, or can this be a staff decision based on what the logical landscape proposal looks like?
Well, I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that it's the Planning Commission that has the discretion here because it's a site plan in front of the commission. Now, you obviously have the ability, I apologize that I was looking at the landscape plan and counted only the proposed plantings. If they do have 7 healthy existing trees on Midway, then that would meet. We would rather have them retain healthy, mature trees than remove them west side. I'm of the opinion I do not see an issue with substituting evergreens.
Offered a grant to do some more plantings. So there are, there were saplings at the time. We planted around 30 trees 2 years ago, both lining Midway, some filled in the median, and then on both sides of Midway as well. There are, I think that is what a lot of those, I know a little background history. So they're not they're newer plantings. If they need to get moved, they might still be able to be relocated because they're only a few years old. We have had some buck damage on a couple of them. We wrapped them in plastic and did our best to kind of stabilize and anchor them, but we probably lost about 3 or 4 trees on Midway from deer in the last 2 years since they've been planted.
Okay, thank you for that input. All right, let's make a decision regarding the trees. The issue specifically is, do we allow the substitution of evergreen for the deciduous trees? That the applicant is proposing. Brian, can a motion like that suffice?
You could do that, Mr. Chair, or you could just include it in, if a motion is put forth on the site plan itself, it could just be one of the points of that particular motion. We don't need a separate motion for that in and of itself.
All right, I just don't want, okay, fair enough. All right, Mr. Hughes, the last item on the list, G, was the sign permit.
So yes, we will be applying under separate cover for any signage that is proposed. At this point in time, it's a wall-mounted sign. I'm not sure about a monument sign. Brandon?
Yes, I would love a, wall-mounted and monument sign to, stand out and make the point that we're trying to do our best and look as good as possible, but also clearly advertise, show people coming up and down the road what we are. We're trying to get away with that, or away from that with the buildings and making them look way more upscale. So it'd be nice to have a sign that actually says storage on it so somebody actually knows what it is.
Okay, well, recognizing what our sign ordinances require, I'm sure you could tailor something that would pass the staff muster.
Yep.
So yes, we will be applying for a sign permit separately.
Understood. I will raise one issue relative to the signs, and I believe I spoke with Brian about this briefly. I think he may have mentioned it to you, and that was the wall panels, which struck me as advertising.
Okay.
I didn't see benefit in having a 6-foot sculpture of a camper. When your theme is Pirates Cove. You had when the original ones I saw, you had, I thought, very nice renderings that were consistent with the theme. And this time, what I saw was more, some of it was advertising, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Okay. We've been talking about that, and we're hoping that maybe the airport commission could tell us a direction and give us actual, pictures of what they would like on there, since we're working with them and have been, every day so far.
Mike Duker.
Yes, sir.
Is that something that the airport commission could pick up on?
Yep, they've already mentioned it to Brandon in some prior conversations, and we'd be happy to provide him some. We've had some discussions, whether it ties into Grosse Ile from a maritime perspective or some other historical perspectives relating to the Navy base, airport.
Okay. All right. Those are the items. Mr. Hughes, do you have any other points you would like to make at this point?
Not really, other than, again, we're looking for to expedite the process here. We're anxious to put a shovel in the ground, and whatever you can do to help us out in that regards, we would appreciate.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I jump in just real quick?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry. I want to circle back to one thing, and I thought about stopping earlier, but I wanted to kind of get through our list before I brought this up. But when we were presented with modifications to Building D, which was previously all metal, and they incorporated the masonry standard. It actually, I just want to make sure that you guys hit it on the number, but it's actually a 75% minimum. And I wrote in my notes that you had indicated a 50%. So I just want to make sure that we hit that number with the revision, or that you're able to make that correction, assuming it was at 50.
Okay. Yeah, the rendering definitely was at 50%. Looking at it, we can easily meet the 75, and that's what the other buildings on Midway already meet. So we would just bring that up, the block up to the same height as the other ones and make it uniform.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, guys.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to now stop the discussion with the commission and see if there's anybody in the public who has any comments or questions regarding this application. Brian, could you run through your list like you did before, please?
Yep, Mr. Chair, we actually lost a couple bodies, but so first on my list that is not township commission or staff would be, again, Bill Heil. Mr. Heil, if you had anything you wanted to ask or speak to regarding the site plan for this project, please feel free.
Thank you for your consideration here. It's valuable, but it is what it is, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Heil.
And then next, Mr. Chair, last but not least, would be Tracy again. Ms. Hefner, if you had anything to add, please feel free to do so. Or if you have a question, please feel free to ask.
No, I'm good at this time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's all I see on our list. Everyone else is commission or township staff.
So let's start with Mr. Rathel.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Uta?
Work with Brian and the township board as well to make sure that we don't hit any roadblocks about that. And I also wanted to say thank you for working with us on the signage, is Mr. Schweikert's term, advertising. So I appreciate that very much. I think you have a real opportunity to add to the ambiance of that space for the community.
Thank you, Uta.
The petitioners for being so responsive to all the points. I think it's going to be a great project for Grozio. I think, much like Uta said, I don't want to slow it down. So as important as I think it would be to activate that space with the lengthier, sidewalks and just plantings in the boulevard and, going through all of that, I do want to see time tonight.
Thank you, Angela. Mr. Fucci.
Yeah, not much for me. I do appreciate all the work that's been put in on this, as I said earlier. And, I think
Okay, thank you. Mr. Boggs.
I had a few comments. First, which I just wanted to say I strongly support the buildings currently proposed there. So ultimately, you're going to see whatever RVs, cars, or whatever stored there. I think Evergreens would be nice. Also, as another point, I would strongly encourage, looking into revising these pictures to something that's more appropriate or something more in line with a Grozio, something that's additive as opposed to ultimately being some type of advertisement. What couple of questions I had for the petitioner is one is they mentioned that some of these units are climate controlled. I was just curious if there's any type of rooftop or mechanical units that will be exposed to exterior streets. Another item I had.
Okay, let's get an answer to that question. That's a good question, Mr. Hughes.
Yes, there are units that are climate controlled. There are no rooftop units per se. They are suspended units within the building. With the Excite plan, there's one small AC condenser related to the mechanical equipment, but other than that, they will not be seen.
Dan.
I was also hoping that you had those colored renderings or elevations you have there. I was hoping you could show us again sheet A1 so I don't have the elevations along there, and I would appreciate if I can take a look at those.
Mr. Hughes, can you put that up?
Yep.
Give me a minute here. I'm not used to all of these. Oops, that's not the right thing. Don't open. Oh well.
It was the other way.
It's on the other side.
Yeah.
Are they in that group? There we go.
These are some of them.
Go back to that.
So this is the office view, as well as a portion of the buildings to the west of it. This theme would kind of get repeated down the building. See, the one at the corner kind of shows up here.
So
I'm sure if I had a little bit more time, I could get a bigger perspective. I did not have that prepared for today, but I'm sure we have one somewhere.
Yeah. Was there, besides for looking directly on, was there anything else you were looking to see from it, Mr. Boggs?
I really just wanted to get, I saw a little teaser for a minute there, what it looked like, and I was hoping to see a little more. I like, you had an effort to make it somewhat nautical themed by adding the lighthouse, and I do like that. It's obviously not a requirement of the ordinance, but I think it was something to bring something a little unique to your storage facility here in Grosse Ile.
Yeah, and that's what we thought too. Obviously, you know, we do them all one better every time we get a little bit better at it. So
this is the L, but you can see the doors and the other details are repeated. You know, with landscaping in front. So
great. I appreciate you showing me those elevations.
Thank you, Dan. Couple of comments. First, Mr. Duker, please. I raised the issue with Brian about the airport glide path. Did you comment on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's our secondary runway there. There is a 20-to-1 glide slope that comes off. That is the main runway protection zone. So for every 20 feet out you come from the runway touchdown point, you have to go 1 feet up, needs to be clear. But the entire lot and property that we're discussing here are just outside that zone. Then there's also a runway object-free area, and this is also outside that zone. And then there's a further requirement that it's for buildings to be under 50 feet tall. Obviously, we don't have any restrictions with this. I don't believe any of these units will be anywhere close to that. The only one I had mentioned to Brandon, we'll have to just, once the final height of the lighthouse is sent, I'll probably send that to our airport engineer and just kind of give that a good once over. There are some finer requirements for things like helicopter approaches if you get a little taller in between the runways, but the majority of this project is offset between our two runways, and it removes a lot of the restrictions. So no issue there from the airport end.
Okay. Is it appropriate to put some element of the approval of the airport engineer in the motion?
Up to you guys. The lease that has been executed between the two parties requires compliance with applicable aeronautical law, regulations. So I think we're covered from that aspect. But if you guys want to add a layer to that, that's up to your discretion.
Okay, sounds like you've got it well in hand. So good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hughes, a couple of more comments from me, please. I'm concerned about the west end of the site. I think it's building G. It's the one that's right next to the pond.
Yes.
It looks from the edge of the property at Grow Road.
Yep. Greg is going to pull it up on the screen here.
I don't know that I have a rendering.
No, well, we don't have a rendering, but that's the elevation that you're looking at. And it is full height metal siding on that west elevation.
Okay, so there's nothing architectural on that side at all?
No, there's not, but this is some of the area where there's extra landscaping, including evergreen trees.
Is that shown? What I'm concerned about is the corner of the bike path at the property where the house is next to. And what do they look out to? Is there enough landscaping in there that isn't just a blank wall?
There's enough landscape.
So the residence is not an issue.
And there's also a berm related to the stormwater and some landscaping on top of that, which would be shrubs of various height from 3 to 8 feet or so. And then in addition, we've got some deciduous trees and coniferous trees in this area that will screen the wall as well.
And we have room to add more plantings along there.
Okay.
Is your main concern is only the residents?
No, that was one concern, but you've addressed that concern. My other concern is the fact we've now put a bike path or a walkway in there, and are going to be walking down past an ugly backside of a building, you know, if nothing on it.
Okay.
You know, can we get some false windows, for example?
Okay.
Like what we have in the post office, or you know, something that makes it look a little nicer.
We will enhance that elevation on our next package. We will make it look better than what it does right now.
Okay.
And add some trees to boot.
An element in a motion then, in the motion. Okay, thank you for agreeing to that. The other comment I have is that the fence. Is that fence run the full length of the detention pond?
The fence. Yes.
I'm thinking about a safety concern. The only other detention pond that we have that the Planning Commission has seen in the last 30 years is over on Macomb Street. And it was not near as deep as this. It was not near as public area as this, but we required a fence around it. Now that may be an engineering question, but you know, just for safety, you know, this is a 5 foot decline.
Yeah.
It could potentially be filled with water.
The slopes meet the ordinance from Wayne County of 1-on-6, which is a slope that is easily climbable when full of water. That's why they write the ordinance that way, for safety of a detention area. If it had to be, you know, if it happened to be full of water, even outside, all the way up to the path, are those flatter slopes.
How 30 feet?
It's from the detention area. It's probably, if it was full, let me see.
This is where it starts the slope.
Well, it starts the slope from the edge of the sidewalk or bike path now.
And it's
that is my concern. If a little kid is riding down on his bicycle down through there and he gets off the sidewalk, what's going to happen to him?
Where's our don't we have a retaining wall over there, Greg?
It's on the north side. We're on the east side.
It says there's a retaining wall, 18-inch retaining wall?
There's a single, like concrete block style retaining wall along the backside of these buildings to provide.
Oh, the arrow goes up that way.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of the.
We could increase that to reduce the slopes a little bit. Again, a 1-on-6 slope is pretty flat. It would be like, let's see, 1-on-6.
Well, this may be an engineering question. I don't know. The engineers may come after you on this, because I know that the detention pond on Macomb Street is not near as deep as this or near as big, and it was a requirement.
Mr. Chairman, I think, as the applicant had mentioned, based upon the slope at 1-6, it negates the need for a fence to enclose the property or enclose the retention pond, just simply because, as the applicant had mentioned, it's a type of pond at that slope that somebody could easily get out of. But as you had mentioned, I'm sure that engineering will review that, and I'm assuming you guys' motion, if you're looking at approval of site plan tonight, would be contingent upon that. So
yeah, I would definitely like the engineering approval of that slope without a fence.
That's correct. We will achieve that, whatever the engineering report says.
Okay, that pretty well completed all of my questions. You answered a lot of them earlier. So thank you very much. I appreciate your cooperation on this. You've been very pleasant to work with, because you have the same goal in mind that we have. That's the best for Grove Seal community. And that comes across in the way you guys have dealt with this commission. So I want to thank you for that. Not everybody is like that. Trust me. Okay, at this point,
We do much better as an end result, so you'll like things much better when we're done.
I'm sure.
I will too.
Okay, I'm going to go around and ask for questions or comments one more time. Dan?
No additional questions.
Jay?
No, none.
Mr. Rathel?
No.
Uta?
No, thank you.
Angela?
None here, thanks.
Okay, then we're going to be up to the point of a motion. Brian, we had several contingency items that we laid out there. Could you summarize those? Have you got that written down, please?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. So this is a blending of, I guess, the issues in my letter as well as what we've discussed tonight. Some of the verbiage may not be exactly as you want it, but I think I'll hit all of the points, and certainly feel free we can wordsmith this as we go. So first one is that the applicant must demonstrate compliance with the building coverage requirements. Number 2 would be revisions to building D with respect to the materials for compliance with the ordinance. Number 3, I simply wrote down as the midway sidewalk issue. I don't know if the motion earlier was intended just to cover that, in which case okay, let's scrap that. Number 3 then would be to allow evergreen trees to substitute required deciduous trees. Number 4 would be to have the what we're calling the wall panels further evaluated with respect to the theme with the Airport Commerce Park Commission. The next would be that it would be subject to final engineering review and approval. And I apologize, I also added another one that we would get revised building G, as in green, elevations for the west side. The applicant indicated they would provide additional facade enhancements. And then the last one I would like you to include would be that action on the site plan should also be subject to Township Board granting of the special land use, so that the two are tied together. That was my list, Mr. Chair. If anyone else had anything, if I missed anything.
There were a couple of others. In addition to final engineering, we needed final police, fire approval.
Yep, police and fire for sure.
Okay, and then my specific reference to engineering approval that they do not need a fence on the detention pond. I want that specifically listed.
Okay, we could, if you want to connect that, just general final engineering approval with
no,
that
because
statement.
I want the engineer to absolutely look at that, and I don't know if it's a general statement that they will.
Got it.
Okay, did we miss any points? I don't think we did. Okay, I will call for a motion, please. Mr. Rathel, will you make a motion?
No, I'll let Mr. Frucci make this motion.
Okay, Mr. Frucci.
Yeah, I'll make it easy. I will move that we move this forward. We approve the site plan, subject to all of the things that Brian listed.
I could have done that.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, we have a motion from Jay. We have a good laugh from John, and we have a support from Dan. Okay, I will call the question. Running down the list, Angela.
We're searching for my mute button, yes.
Okay, I from Angela. Uta.
I from Uta.
Mr. Rathel.
Aye.
Mr. Frucci.
Aye.
Mr. Boggs.
Aye.
And the chair votes yes. It's unanimous. The site plan is approved with the contingencies shown. Can I suggest, please, even though the board doesn't rule on special land use, I think, Brian, it would be great if we presented the fact that we did approve the site plan with these contingencies and that we're anxious to get this project moving forward.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, I'll work with UTA in whatever form that takes, whether it's a memo or our conventional findings of fact. I will include Planning Commission conditional approval of the site plan as part of that that communication back to the board.
Okay.
For sure.
Very good.
Thank you, Brian.
Mr. Hughes and company over there, thank you very much. And you guys can sign off. We're going to here shortly go into executive session. So again, thank you very much. Follow up with Brian and we'll get you moving.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, the next item on our agenda is something on meeting dates. This came out of the training session that was held about Open Meetings Acts with Zoom. One of the things that was requested was that each commission and committee provide all the dates that they could potentially meet in the coming calendar year. I simply responded by saying that, ours are Mondays, on Mondays, first, third, and fifth Monday, if there is such a thing, excluding holidays, and gave them every date. So the Planning Commission has complete flexibility to take whichever of those dates that we want and still be in full compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So that's the way I did it. I guess that's the way it is. Nobody rejected it, so I guess it's okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Mr. John, real quick.
Yes.
In speaking with Brian Friel, I think the clerk's office would, and UTA could confirm or deny, but I believe the clerk's office would like this schedule as an action item. So while I know it's already been put in place and the date's sort of established, if we could get a motion in support and a roll call vote to establish the Planning Commission meeting dates, then that would satisfy the clerk's office.
Well, we got to keep the clerk's office happy. Okay.
So
all right.
I
So I would
voluntold
entertain
Mr.
a motion.
Frutti.
Angela, would you make a motion, please, regarding dates?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the dates as planned for Planning Commission
motion.
meetings.
We have support from, how about UTA? See, now,
Support from UTA.
Okay. I'll call the question. Dan?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
UTA?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
And I vote yes. There it is. Maybe I'll vote no. No, I won't. I'll vote yes. Okay, there we go. The clerk's office is happy. If they're happy, I'm happy. All right. At this point, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. We're going to discuss legal matter. So, Jay, would you please make a motion to go into executive session?
Yes, I move that we go to executive session for the purpose of discussing a legal matter.
Okay. May I have support, please, Angela?
Support.
Roll call vote. Dan?
Aye.
Jay?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
UTA?
Aye.
Angela?
Aye.
And I vote yes. We are now in executive session. Brian, are we clear with folks who are